10 millimeter versus 357 Magnum, and today what I have is PMC ammunition. Now, I couldn't get the exact same line of ammunition because these are pretty much the only hollow points that I could obtain, and all the hollow points I could actually find that exist between the two of these cartridges. So the 357 Magnum is a Starfire, PMC Gold Starfire, and the 10 millimeter just says bronze on it. But anyways, there's no rated velocity on any of these boxes here. The 357 is a 150 grain jacketed hollow point. It looks similar to an XTP, but a little different. The 10 millimeter is a 170 grain, kind of odd for caliber, jacketed hollow point. It looks similar to a XTP, but not quite. Now with that 357 Magnum, I have tested that in the past, a different box anyways. And it was the most awful ammunition I have ever tested. So I'm going to test it again with a different box and see if it's as terrible as the first box I tested. So this is definitely not going to be a good representation for 357 Magnum whatsoever if it performs like the last box. But I do like to, as much as I can, use the same brand of ammunition when comparing cartridges. So we're going to see what we get between the two of these. We're going to go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocity and accuracy we get at the same time. And as always, we're going to go through the Juggernaut box, which contains a 1 3/4 inch pack of bologna covered by 4 layers of denim, followed by a 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard that kind of represents like ribs or sternum through a pectoral muscle. And into water jugs to catch these bullets, and how this normally compares to ballistics gels. Out the back of jug 1, we have about 9 inches. Jug 2 about 12 inches, back of jug 3 about 15 inches, and so forth. So let's get started with the test with the PMC Bronze and PMC Starfire ammunition between 357 Magnum and 10 millimeter auto. So let's get started. All right, I'm about 4 yards from the chronograph, 5 yards from the target. We'll see how this PMC Bronze 10 millimeter does. I have no idea the rated velocity, but we'll see what the 170 grain bullet does here. 1192. Never seen anything like that before. That is odd. $11.76. 11.92. 11.94. 1171. Lacks a little bit of velocity there, but I can say they definitely dialed in a pretty accurate load for a 5-inch pistol. Now let's see how that 357 Magnum compares. All right, 357 Magnum. Now keep in mind that typical velocity for about 158 grain bullet should be 1,300 feet per second plus. Last time I tested it, I remember I had a lot less than that. So let's see how this box does. Let's see if we get 1,300 feet per second or so. $11.16. 10.21. 10.85. 11.16. 1088. That's just awful. I've actually fired 38 plus P 158 grain rounds through this that have hit 1250 feet per second average. So awful ammunition. As you would expect, very little recoil, but just awful ammunition. Now let's hit the ballistic box and see how these compare to each other. All right, PMC Bronze 10 millimeter. We'll see how this does. All right, huge amount of damage to that first jug, more than I would have expected. Now here's the bologna pack. Most of your 10 millimeter rounds will blow this thing completely apart. However, this looks about on par with a little bit greater than a 9 millimeter plus P low end 357 Magnum. So I don't know where the fiberboard is. Actually, I see it right there. So let's take a look at that. All right, our fiberboard has a little bit larger than a bullet diameter hole. So we're definitely getting expansion right away. So let's see what we got in water jugs. All right, first jug has just a massive amount of damage. This looks on par with a lot of the 10mm rounds I test, so it's looking pretty good so far for this round. Jug 2, not quite as much damage as I've seen with some, but still pretty good. Jug 3, we went through Jug 3, impact on 4. Huge dent on 5, so that's going to be 18 inches comparison to the Ballistic gel. The bullet is in Jug 4. And what we got is pretty good here. This is definitely not an XTP bullet because I can see a concave base. It looks like their own bullet. It doesn't look like they've used something else. Similar to a Hydroshock in some ways. Very thick jacket. So considering how it expanded with how thick that jacket is, I would say overall it did quite well. It's a pretty good performing round compared to the accuracy, compared to the performance, pretty good. Now let's see what we get with 357 Magnum. All right, 357 Magnum PMC Starfire. Even with that 1100 feet per second or so we were working with, we should still see expansion. However, in the last test, I did not see any. So we can hope this one does a little bit better. Probably not, though. All right. Now, the first thing we see is this baloney pack is still intact. That is unheard of for any 357 Magnum that I test. So what I got is very little damage. The fiberboard hole does not suggest any expansion with that entrance hole there. Not looking good so far. All right, the first jug we went clean through it. It did split out the side, so this is kind of comparable to a 38 Special as far as energy goes. First jug actually, or second jug actually took on a lot of damage where it's cracking the whole thing, so more than I would have expected, honestly. Jug 3, and we're going right through 3 as I expect. Impact on 4, and we're going through 4, and there's a big old dent in Jug 5. Bullet is in the box. Very similar to my last test. It did not over penetrate. We're talking about 18 to 19 inches of penetration, but again, just like the last test with the 4-inch barrel, absolutely no expansion whatsoever. So this is probably the worst 357 Magnum round I have ever tested. It also has a very thick jacket like the other one, so that also would indicate it's not going to break up or expand when hitting a hard barrier. So absolutely terrible performing 357 Magnum ammunition. The 10mm did okay, but honestly, somebody should say something to this company about this 357 Magnum they're putting out, because it is not a representation of anything in 357 Magnum, anywhere close to anything normal. So that's what you get today with the PMC ammunition, 357 Magnum versus 10mm auto. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.